The Chicago Bears are bringing in a familiar face. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all of the Chicago Bears news you're seeking out both during the season and now in the off season. Before we dive into today's story, please take a moment, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. You're not going to want to miss anything because there is so much happening this offseason. We've already covered the offensive coordinator search, but we still got to look for offensive assistants. We got to hire a defensive coordinator, defensive assistants. We're going to be looking at free agency and the NFL draft and everything in between. So please make sure you're tuned into what we're doing because you're not going to want to miss any of the news coming out of Halas Hall. Now, after a couple weeks seemingly focused entirely on the offensive side of the ball, the Chicago Bears are finally making a little bit of headway on their search for a defensive coordinator. And it was announced today that they have requested permission to interview Eric Washington. Eric is the current assistant head coach and defensive line coach for the Buffalo Bills. As you can see, looking at his resume here, he spent time in Carolina, and that was in the Ron Rivera years when, most notably Luke Kuechly would have been the captain of that defense. And if you look a little below that, he spent time in the Lovie Smith offense. He was, defense. He was the defensive line coach and defensive assistant for the Chicago Bears under Lovie Smith. And so, we look at this, and it's interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One, Matt Eberflus already comes from that coaching tree. Matt Eberflus has that similar kind of defensive scheme that Lovie Smith has. And so he's clearly looking to bring in somebody, as would make sense, who knows kind of how to run that Tampa 2 defense. But this is somebody who has really paid his dues. He's been in a number of a small number, but he has served on the defensive staffs for some impressive defenses. And so Ron Rivera has gotten a little bit of a bad rap recently for his time in Washington. But that Carolina team was going places. That was a great defense. And ultimately, when you look at that era, under Ron Rivera, that was a coach that was widely respected, widely kind of sought after, and so I would look at that and say, like, that's a big, an impressive mark on his resume. And now he's been out in Buffalo with McDermott, and that's another coach who, that's a defensive coach. That's somebody who has impressed a lot of people and ultimately is. Has proven to be one of the better coaches in the NFL. And so when you think like Lovie Smith, Ron Rivera, Sean McDermott, this is somebody who has shown that they can work collaboratively with the defensive coach, who can work well within that Lovie Smith Tampa 2 style defense. And this is somebody who has basically been, maybe not on a Super Bowl winning team, but has shown that they are a part of a competitive football program, which was true in Carolina. It's been true in Buffalo, and it was true before that in Chicago with that Lovie Smith Bears team that, most recently in 2010, they were an 11-5 football team. That was his last year in Chicago. And so, at the end of the day, like, this is a coach who has shown he can be a part of a winning culture. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a good fit. I think it makes a lot of sense. We'll see who else they look to bring in to interview for that position. But ultimately, I think there's a lot to be excited about. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you think this is a good hire, if you think that they ultimately should be looking in a different direction, I'll be curious to know what you think. So thanks for tuning in. And as always, bear down.